Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Street Epistemology review show. Today, I've got a bunch of people here. What's up, you guys? How's it going?
Hello.
What's up, Reed?
Hey,
Reed.
Hello, friends.
Good to
Hey.
see
What's
you.
up, Matt?
Hi.
Yeah, Matt, you are new, I think, for everybody.
Yeah.
Want to introduce yourself first?
My name's Matt.
Putting the pressure on.
No, I'm kind of a street epistemology enthusiast. I kind of got into it, I'd say mid to late last year, and I've been kind of active trying to use it, in real life situations, and I found it to be a real useful technique. And so I enjoy watching lots of Reed's and Anthony's videos. So this is kind of neat being able to review one.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm sure everyone else knows everyone else here pretty much. So, and if not, just check the links in the description. So, yeah, today we're going to review two of my videos. I had them just recently this Sunday and the Sunday before that. I've been going out to, parks here in Los Angeles, and I've been uploading clips from live streams to my second new YouTube channel, Cordial Curiosity Clips. And in order to get all these conversations out timely, I'm just uploading clips from the streams where I'm using like the good audio I have recording on site. So I'm like editing just a wide shot video of these and putting them up the night of just to get them out there. And then if it's like a really good video, then I'll put it on this main channel. But just to have it all out there, that's what I'm planning to do now.
Nice.
Cool. That's neat.
Mhm.
Good idea.
And maybe before we get into the videos, in case you don't know, a bunch of us from the SE community was recently on You Are Not So Smart, David McRaney's podcast, talking about vaccine hesitancy. Yeah, the conversations we're talking about today are around the COVID vaccine. So, Anthony, I want to give a recap of what happened there.
Yeah, we hung out with David McRaney about 2 weeks ago, and maybe it was 3 weeks ago. We recorded a roundtable discussion. Myself, Reed, Mark was there, and
Nathan,
Ram. We just had a really awesome discussion. He ended up recording the Zoom hangout, and I think he's planning to put it on his Patreon. So if you're not a Patreon of him, if you want to get a sneak peek of the whole thing, throw him a few bucks and you can watch it. But I think ultimately he's going to release it and put it on his YouTube channel. But the edited version of our talk appeared at the end of a 3-hour podcast episode. So I don't know if that's good or bad. I'm worried how many listeners may have tuned out before they get to the SE part of it, or I'm not sure what his reasoning was for sticking us at the end. Anyways, if you want SE related advice about how to talk to people about vaccines or just SE in general, that's a really good podcast. And I'm excited about it because it's a mainstream podcast. It's not theism, atheism. It's more like a regular podcast, for lack of a better word. And it's cool to see people in a regular podcast interested in what we're doing with SE. So it was really great. I mean, there's things that I wish maybe I had done better in the way that I was presenting the material. Like I was listening to it afterwards, like, why am I talking that way? Can I just talk normal? So I'm kind of kicking myself that I didn't deliver better, but it was an opportunity to get these ideas out there, and it was really cool.
Same. Here's a quick clip of it just to tease people.
God. Okay.
Now, street epistemology isn't really meant to persuade people. That's not what its purpose is. Its purpose is to help people get better at critical thinking, to help them engage with metacognition in a way they may not have done before. But it can be a useful tool in the persuasion toolkit. So, yes, street epistemology. I sat down with 5 experts at the same time over Zoom to take a deep dive into this technique, and I'll post a video of this discussion up on Patreon and then a little bit later up on YouTube. But for this episode, I'm pulling some highlights. So it was a very long discussion. I'm only pulling out about half of it.
There you go. Quick teaser.
Yeah. It was awesome. It was also cool to see David just casually say SE instead of street epistemology. There's a level of familiarity there and maybe some acceptance, and it's just kind of cool to see somebody like him get it.
Have you heard any feedback of the episode? I haven't really.
None. Like I've seen a little bit of spike in my subscribers and followers on Twitter and stuff, but I don't know what to attribute that to. But nobody has reached out to me to say, great job on the podcast. You guys were awesome. You hit it out of the park, blah, blah, blah. I don't know what to make of it.
I'm wondering if I think people are interested in it. It might take them 3 days or so to get through the whole podcast.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, it's still fairly new, so give people some time to and to get through all, get to our part as well. It might take a while.
Yeah,
we'll see. But yeah, let's get into the first video. It's around 20 minutes, and then if we have time, I have a second video. So this one was at Echo Park, and yeah, it's very interesting. Here we go. Hi, we're just hanging out doing some interviews today. If you're interested,
I'll get interviewed.
Want to do it?
Let's do it.
Cool.
Take my chair.
Let's do it. Wait, what's this for, though?
It's for my YouTube channel, Podcast Hobby.
YouTube.
Yep.
Let's go.
Cool. How are you doing today?
Oh, do I gotta put these on?
It helps. Check.
Yo.
Hello, what's up? I like her sunglasses. Wow.
Yo, you fuck with the pits?
Pit Viper.
Let's go, bro. How you doing, man?
Good. How are you?
How many subs do you have? Just wondering.
15,000.
Oh, nice.
And we have 7 people watching.
Nice, bro.
On YouTube and Twitch and a bunch of things. So yeah, you come to the park often?
No, I'm not. I'm from California, just not the area. Missed my flight at LAX, so I had to stay the night in LA pretty much. But I'm going to Florida, going to Miami.
Nice.
Yeah.
I have family in Naples, Florida.
Nice, man. Nice.
Mm-hmm.
So is this just like social experiment, or is there like questions you want to ask me?
Yeah, we're trying to practice this way of having conversations called street epistemology.
Okay.
It's a Socratic method style where we let someone come up and let them bring up a claim, something they think is the case or true, and I will keep my opinion out of it and ask you questions to help you understand why you believe to yourself, really. And help people reflect on what they believe and why.
So something that I think is true.
Yeah.
Okay.
It could be politics, religion, spirituality, science. Anything.
Let me think here. We'll stick on topic with COVID, I guess.
Yeah.
I think that the vaccine is not effective, and I'm pretty sure that's pretty obvious at this point. You know what I mean?
No COVID vaccine is effective in what way? What do you mean?
Well, if you look at countries like Israel or Iceland, these countries have about 90 to 95% fully vaccinated, countries. And if you look at these countries, they're having COVID outbreaks. So how the hell is this vaccine, supposed to stop COVID if people that are fully vaccinated are still getting the virus? It just doesn't really make sense, and it's really fishy. A lot of it seems like there's big money interest in it, you know what I mean? It's not really about like saving people's lives or anything personally.
Yeah, and we recently got all together, a bunch of us, to like work on this like tip sheet around asking questions for vaccine hesitancy. And so many claims from this guy that we covered in that.
Yeah, he pretty much covered the gamut over the course of the conversation.
Yeah.
I started a list of his claims. I've got 2 of them so far. The vaccine is not effective, and it's not about saving people's lives.
Yeah.
I'll try to keep a running list.
Yeah. Thank you.
He floats around too.
And you could really look at it. I mean, the vaccine itself, you could argue that it's more deadly than the virus. I mean, if you look at like the VAERS adverse reactions and stuff like that, and a lot of different other sources, not the CNN and MSNBC sources, but if you look at other independent sources, you can find information that you won't find on the mainstream news about the vaccine. And it's very like, even like, obviously it's like, you can go on like Reddit and stuff and hear, read people's stories about their vaccine, to how credible that is, it's a little dubious, but there's so much, it's just crazy. I think that they're going to try to mandate this, you know what I mean? And they're, trying to force us to.
So he's basically just rambling and ranting. I did want to stick on one claim. Should I interrupt this? I probably should have interrupted it.
I was thinking that. Yeah, I was thinking at some point this. What this seemed like to me was kind of like a gish gallop. Like it's like claim after claim after claim. And
I think he's seeing it as a soapbox at this point, rather than a conversation.
Yeah. Right. He may just like, this is the place that I can vent and just share all my ideas with no pushback, So
right.
Yeah, maybe interrupting and saying, so I've got like 3 or 4 claims right here at the moment. And this approach that I'm attempting to do works best when I have one claim that we can both focus on together. Yeah. Can we try to restrict this discussion to this one claim of like, I've got 4 so far. You can repeat them back to him and see if he wants to select one of them or surface a fresh one that he hasn't identified yet.
Yeah.
Get the vaccine to eat, to go into restaurants and stuff. It's just insane. And another thing too, it's experimental. It's experimental mRNA gene technology. You know what I mean? It's not like it's a real vaccine. A real vaccine is something that is a dead or weakened form of the virus. You know what I mean? So it's not a real vaccine. It's a new mRNA technology that, the creator of mRNA vaccines himself came out saying that, the vaccine isn't safe and that it's possibly going to cause a lot of damage in the future to people. So, I don't know. That's pretty much how I feel about the vaccine. And the COVID lockdowns themselves are 100% worse than the virus. People, my mom lost her job. My dad lost her job. So many people I know lost their job. Everybody's on unemployment. The country is going to hell, man.
Yes, what I'm hearing you say is just this whole situation is messed up. It's bad. There's the virus itself, and the campaign for it is not effective. And even if it was effective, there's just fishy stuff going on with financial incentives.
Yeah.
And the effects of the whole lockdowns is bad for the economy and for people getting their jobs. It's just a bad situation.
Yeah, in general, man. In general, it's like we just got to wake up and just go back to normal because we're going to live with COVID no matter what. COVID's not going away. Honestly, COVID's always been here. Coronavirus vaccines, obviously it's a new variant or whatever, but, coronavirus has always been here. So we're just going to have to live with it at this point, and we got to move on.
The broad category of a coronavirus has always been.
Yes, yeah. Like coronaviruses were discovered in like the 1960s, I believe, something along those lines. But obviously, it's like a new variant or whatever.
This particular one is new.
Yeah.
Is it dangerous? If you got COVID, would you be concerned?
I would rather get COVID than the vaccine, 100%.
Why do you believe that?
Because
I've heard even in McCraney's podcast that asking this question is probably a mistake, but it's hard to say. But really, should we be asking why if we're wanting to potentially persuade someone away from being in where they are in their confidence? I ask them
because you're reinforcing it. You mean?
Yeah,
because you're reinforcing the belief by asking.
Yeah,
by asking how he originated it. You think you're reinforcing it?
Well, even in the podcast, though, he said it's important to kind of steelman their claims so that they feel like they're heard and they know that, you're listening to what they're saying. But then you should talk about other, things, other possible reasons, or like, what if that reason weren't true, right? Or get them to focus on it, right? But right now, he just keeps repeating claim after claim, probably that he's heard or believes, right? And so it's difficult to even get a word in, right?
Yeah. And maybe we should say something like, maybe we really need to spell this out. What Reed is doing, he's merely restating the claims back to him. He's not agreeing with him.
Challenging. He's not questioning. He's not challenging with questions. He's really getting clarity on the claim.
He's just trying to understand.
Right.
So Reed is not acting in a anti-vaccine manner.
Right. Yeah.
I think it should just be said.
Yeah. Yes. YouTube. Whenever this video gets flagged, whoever's watching this, please. This is trying to.
Yeah, we should probably. We're having some issues with some of Mark's videos because of the nature of the topic. They're getting flagged, which is really frustrating because we're trying to show how to talk to people about deeply held beliefs and conspiratorial minded thinking and this we think is the solution to that. And it's really discouraging as content creators trying to show a better way when our own materials are getting denied because it's probably getting caught up in some algorithm. We're not blaming a specific person. We're not being conspiratorial necessarily ourselves, but it's discouraging. And yeah, if that algorithm needs to be tweaked a little bit.
And
but repeating the claim does not mean you're agreeing with the claim. Just
right.
Yeah, we don't want to lose that point.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
One
Michael.
of the hardest things I find that I'm finding with these sort of conversations is, as Matt mentioned, the gish gallop. And it's very difficult, I'm finding, with my conversation partners to focus. And so I'm feeling that it's really important to get their permission at the outset. That's the way Anthony mentioned, can we focus just on one thing? With your permission, can I direct you when I feel that we're going off target? Because there are many things that we can talk about. And if you listen to him unravel all of his reasons, you could probably go on for 24 hours. You know, that it can go on and on and on. And then there's this conspiracy, and then there's this, and then there's this. And so, maybe the best thing is to get permission and get permission up front. Can I direct your attention with your permission back to one specific point that we're going to focus on now? And then we can, look at all these other things later. I just find that's helpful for us to explore this as partners.
Yeah. Or maybe like this technique, this street epistemology works best if we can just focus on one particular thing. Is there one particular thing we could talk about, right? And then if you put that up front, then you can keep coming back to it, right?
You might still have to remind him that you've agreed to focus on one claim.
Oh yeah,
but at least you might have that agreement, and you could just keep revisiting it.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. All right, here we go. Keep going.
For one, COVID itself, it has a 99.9%, survival rate, especially for people my age. I'm 23 years old. I'm healthy. I take supplements. I'm a little overweight, but I haven't been sick since 2019. Okay.
I wanted to say something about this because,
and that's when
when I was listening to this, I thought, this isn't really the claim you're trying to talk about, but I would find it interesting to ask him, would you feel differently about the seriousness or the situation if you were one of the at-risk groups, right? What if you were old and overweight and immunocompromised, right? And maybe your risk of dying was 10% or something if you got it. Like, I'm not sure he's ever considered that, right?
Oops.
That's a better phrasing of what I was thinking, because when I was watching this live, I think I even typed in the notes, or I said something like, it might be interesting to ask him if he only cares about the risk if it affects him. But I like your phrasing better, Matt, because it's still about him, but in a later stage of his life. So you're keeping him in the mix in the thought experiment. It's not some unknown entity. Yeah, I like that.
Or just keeping it abstract. What would the risk level need to be for yourself? Like, if you get is it a 5% chance? Yeah. Or a 10% chance for whatever illness is out there.
Yeah.
Would that, what level does it need to be at for you to start considering it's important to get the vaccine?
At that point, I want to introduce an actual hypothetical disease. Let's get past COVID, and 2 years from now, when there's a new thing. And that way, if we are talking about it, I'm not bashing on the existing COVID stuff. That I like that separation, and that might help me with YouTube. But I also think it might help me in getting my interlocutor not to fight back about what they know about COVID.
Yeah, kind of make it like a clean sheet. Let's just suppose we had some other thing. It's not this, right?
Yeah.
To kind of take away the emotions maybe they have. But
I think we can.
And I get the sense that his claims are fairly. Oh, sorry. I get the sense that his claims are fairly surface level at this point, where he knows enough to say this point, and that's about it. And now he'll go to the next point because he's done with that point.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like the claims themselves work as evidence, right, for him.
Or as a defense. I don't have to think much about my claims because I have so many of them that I'm not being challenged on them. Right. Chafe and flare technique.
Started supplementing and stuff and taking stuff like colloidal silver and turmeric and I take a lot of different supplements, but that really, I boosted my immune system, and I started boosting it before COVID just because I got into it. You know, I've got into like supplementing and stuff.
Yeah.
And really, I think I may have got COVID in the beginning of like in 2019, like the end of 2019, like I said, like right in the beginning, I was sick in December. And I think it might have been COVID, but honestly, I haven't been sick since. So, and throughout the whole pandemic, I haven't been sick. You know, I don't wear the mask, you know, unless I absolutely have to. Dude, I barely even washed my hands, dude. You know, like I just took a piss and didn't wash my hands. So yeah.
So you feel you're protected because you've boosted your
I
immune
wanted to
system
say
with.
a couple of things about this. First,
That's your
you
title of
shake
your
his
video, Reed.
yeah, right.
Did you shake his hand?
Did you wipe down the table after that, Reed?
We wiped it down after.
The one thing I thought was interesting was like he's open to taking like supplements apparently to boost his immune system, and it's interesting to me because like I guess what in his mind is different between supplements and the vaccine, right? Allegedly, they would both boost your immune system, right?
Yeah, he's taking something. He's taking something and rejecting something else. What's the criteria that he uses to decide to take something as opposed to reject it?
One you're eating, one is injection. Potentially, that might be icky. You know, we're used to eating things. That's normal, but injecting is different.
Sure.
Natural versus
I'm learning needles are a bigger thing for more people than I thought before.
Really.
Mm-hmm. The other thing I thought, and maybe this relates to the introduction where he asked, you know, how many subscribers do you have? And he said, oh, I live stream too. And I was wondering if he was figuring he was going to show this video to like his in-group, right? And maybe use this as look at me kind of like defending, you know, what I believe, right? And I wonder if that's
we asked you how many subscribers you have, so that was
yes, right.
It's on his mind.
Right.
And later he says he live streams himself as well. I haven't found wherever he live streams, and I do have his email. So if I do try to follow up and he watches this, you know, Nate, I'd love to talk with you again at some point. That'd be nice. So yeah, well, here we go. Keep going. Supplements.
Yeah, and I also believe in like, I'm really against like the modern medicine. Really, personally, I believe in, and this is more new for me. Honestly, I'm starting to get into it more like herbal medicine and like more holistic ways of healing. You know what I mean? Because the way that the pharmaceutical industry is and the medical industry is now, it's like, here's a pill, here's a surgery, here's a this, here's that. It's like they just you know, these solutions that they come up with are not, some of them, some of the things in modern medicine, sure, they've been good, but I feel like a lot of them, just look at the opiate crisis, you know what I mean? The opiate crisis wouldn't be here if these, you know, doctors didn't prescribe all these damn opiates to people for a hurt knee or something, you know what I mean? There's other ways to heal yourself, you know, than these modern methods, I think.
Yeah, so let's focus on the question, should you personally get the vaccine? I assume you have not got the vaccine.
Oh, hell no.
And I'd love to understand, I'm hearing a lot of reasons to not get the vaccine. Could we brainstorm, wonder about reasons to get the vaccine? What would need to be true? How would things need to be different in order to potentially lean that way?
I mean, obviously, I think it's up to personal choice at the end of the day. You know, if you want to get the vaccine and be a, you know, experimental, you know, go for the experimental gene therapy, go ahead. You know, I think the Johnson & Johnson actually isn't an mRNA one.
Yeah.
I wanted to say, I thought this was interesting. You asked a really good question, and I think basically he hadn't thought about it, right? He didn't really have any reasons.
That was a good question.
In his mind that could get him, you know, to want to take the vaccine, right? And the personal choice thing is interesting because, well, sure, right? And he even says everyone has the choice to get it or not, right? And if someone gets it, that's fine. I don't mind. But like, I wonder if you could have like refocused on it. Well, sure, yeah, everyone can do what they want. I'm asking you personally, what influences your personal choice, right?
Yeah.
right? Because I felt like he was using that kind of as like a, I'm going to defend against this, right? So you can't really ask me.
Yeah, and how
Like,
do you
like it's my
differentiate
personal
between-
choice. How, you know, why would you ask
Yeah.
me? You know, it's kind of what he said.
And how do you differentiate between something that's experimental and something's not experimental? What criteria do you use? When do you know to draw the line there? And why is that a bad thing? What would you need to see for you to be comfortable with something?
Yeah, yeah. Like in hypothetical, like let's say you had some rare kind of cancer and there was a new experimental treatment that wasn't yet, you know, fully used, and it was likely to save your life. You know, would you be?
I find a lot of people are not considering the fact that by not taking it, that's an actual choice that has consequences in the other direction as well. And they don't consider, are you using the same standard, you know, in determining what the consequences are of not acting and taking and getting the vaccine?
Right.
But this is, I really like this question because they have like 1,000 reasons that they come up with, which are really just surface claims, all these claims. And so this was a really good way to focus. Like,
you're just asking him
what
for
would you
one.
need to see?
Yeah.
What would you need to see to give you confidence? It was a really good question. Yeah.
Thanks. Keep going.
Experimental gene therapy, go ahead. You know, I think the Johnson & Johnson actually is an mRNA one, to be honest, but I heard it also has other problems like stuff with heart problems and stuff like that. But honestly, if you want to get the vaccine, go get the vaccine. I don't give a fuck, honestly. Sorry for my language.
No worries.
I don't really care. You know, you can go get the vaccine. Just don't push it on me and force me to get the vaccine and force me and, you know, push me out of society to get the vaccine. Like, what the hell? That's insane. That's absolutely insane.
If you came to believe,
you notice how, so I know he's probably not doing this deliberately, right? But like the question you asked is what would need to be different for you to want to take the vaccine? And he's answering a different question, which is why are people forcing me to take the vaccine, right? Or you know, people should not force you to take the vaccine, is what he's answering, right? And I don't think he realizes necessarily that he's answering a different question, right?
I wonder how it would have gone with someone like this if, and Reed got this permission. Like, if you get the permission, I may want to ask you to just focus you back to a question. Would you be okay with that if it appears like we're drifting off target? There's a risk of losing rapport. And in this moment, redirect back to the question. Okay, yeah, I get that. That's very important to you. In relation to this question, repeat the question and see. I wonder what would have happened there. Would he have answered the question the second time? Would he have gone off on another tangent?
He would have apologized and said, "I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was getting off topic. Yeah, let's focus on that one." Like, I think he probably is not even. Do you disagree, Dali? I think he's not aware that he's just rambling and throwing.
Yeah, I don't think he knows he's stuck on transmit, but I also don't see him as the apologizing type. But you know, maybe I'm typecasting him.
Maybe.
Yeah, and maybe he's trying to build like some kind of argument in his head about, you know, he's seeing, you know, a lockdown or a kind of enforcement, a kind of the state trying to mandate something is connected in some way to the efficacy of the vaccine itself or the safety or the effectiveness of it. So it's like, could it be possible? It's, you know, it's a bad thing that there's some kind of super harsh mandate or lockdown and the vaccine is actually safe and effective. Are these things related in some way? Is the more harsh of policy in terms of lockdown or mandate make the vaccine less effective? Do these things change?
It seems like we might have the same somehow. We might have the same moral intuitions here. It sounds like you really value freedom over authoritarianism. I value that too. I'm wondering if we did not get vaccinated, could we lose our freedom even further?
Different ways.
Could we be weakening our society and making us vulnerable to our enemies if we don't all get on board this thing?
Yeah,
that might be an interesting.
What are the downsides of not getting vaccinated? Possibly? Right.
Could we have a competitive disadvantage? Could we have a competitive disadvantage against a country that is vaccinating their people and having mandates?
Or like hypothetically, if there were a trade-off between having vaccinations and more lockdowns, if that were a trade-off, which one would you prefer? Right.
Robert gave a really good analogy the other day to me, and it made me laugh. There's a nuclear missile on the way. Everyone, go underground into shelter. How dare you try and control me? You know,
That actually happened in Hawaii about 3
in
years
Hawaii,
ago.
yeah, false alarm.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll keep going here. Believe hypothetically to believe that the vaccine was safe and effective in some way, and let's say next year something happened that you learned about that just made you believe that it was safe and effective. I'd love to get your confidence that it's a good idea to get the vaccine for yourself. If all the way to the right is absolutely yes, it shouldn't have asked a compound question. I tried to ask for a disconfirmation question, but I'm like, that's the second time I've asked it. I'm just going to try to get confidence at now, and then I'll go back to another kind of disconfirmation question. Is it a good idea, or absolutely no, it's not a good idea for you? Where is your current confidence about it?
Absolutely no.
Where's your current?
Absolutely no.
In the white?
Absolutely. That's no, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely no.
Yeah. What would need to happen next year for your future self to think, oh, I'm like a slightly up a little bit about it? Not sure. Not like all the way over, not even like in the middle, but like slightly the other way.
Honestly, nothing, because I don't need it. I've looked at all this, everything I need to look at. I'll be fine if I had coronavirus right now. I would be literally maybe a little sniffles and my throat would hurt. You know what I mean? I don't get fucking sick. Okay. So honestly, never. I don't need the vaccine.
I thought this was interesting. Like, so he's basically rejecting the premise of your hypothetical, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he's not like, you're asking for disconfirmation criteria and he's not really giving it, right? So sometimes then you can maybe give one and see what he thinks about it. And I thought maybe a good one might be, well, suppose, I mean, I know you think this is unlikely and it's not going to happen, but what if you got COVID and it was a serious case and you were in the hospital and you were on a ventilator, right? Could that, would you still feel the same way, do you think, if that were the case?
Yeah.
Maybe that's a little bit too...
That's a little pill of emotion for me, potentially.
Another one I've tried is...
What if there's a variant that all of a sudden killed half the people that infected?
Yeah, that's the one that I've tried. So what's your main reason? So if the supermajority of specialist experts around say that if we don't get a high rate of vaccination, there's a possibility in 3 years from now we might have a COVID-23, which is even more deadlier, and that could affect you and put you in hospital. What's your main reason for not agreeing with that consensus of the experts?
Yeah.
It's interesting
what would have to change in that situation to accept it?
Yeah, it's interesting when you've come across people, and I think we all have, that are this closed, that they're not. There's not even. He basically said, "I've learned all the information I need to know," and that's just such an interesting statement to say.
Yep.
There's nothing more I could learn that would change my mind, and that's just such an interesting stance. Is it defensive, or is it just?
That could actually be a good line of questioning. I wonder if that could be a good line of questioning. Like, are there other things that you are so sure about that you aren't willing to reconsider or change your mind? Like, I'm getting the sense that you're really closed on this issue. Are there other issues that you're equally as closed on? And then maybe you could just start talking about the closed-mindedness that you're observing rather than the topic.
I read ahead. You're absolutely correct.
About what? Which person?
That there's at least one other thing that he's completely closed-minded about. It comes up soon.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right. I'm keeping the list of claims here too, by the way. I've got about 20 of them.
There's no point. Why would I get it? I don't get sick. I haven't been sick for 2.5 years, man. I haven't been sick through the whole pandemic. Why? What's the point? There's no point. And they say, oh, you're what's the hot term they use? like you spread the virus, but you don't get symptoms pretty much. I forget what it's called, honestly. Asymptomatic or whatever.
Yeah.
And honestly, the whole asymptomatic thing, there's that like the science they had behind that, and the studies they were using was very, very sketchy in my opinion. So I don't really believe their whole, and you notice they don't talk about that anymore. When the hell is the last time you heard about asymptomatic people? What you hear about now is the unvaccinated, but the people that are getting the virus are vaccinated. It almost seems like the virus is causing more variants. Oh no, that's actually what exactly is happening. The vaccine is causing more variants. What do you know?
Yeah, I wonder if this claim is testable, that you yourself are virtually, I didn't take the bait. I could have gone down that road, but
yeah. One thing I'm thinking with this unread library effect, like this super confidence in all these claims, I'm wondering if we could ask questions like, what are the actual, I'm really curious, what are the actual odds of harm for someone in your age group with your whatever, state of health you have, of harm flowing from actually getting COVID? What's the percentage of the chance of you being hospitalized? Have you looked that up, and do you know that? And what source you're getting that from? And then what are the odds of harm from getting the vaccine for someone of your age with your underlying health? If the supermajority of experts are saying that the odds of harm from getting COVID outweigh the odds of harm of getting vaccinated, what's your main reason for disagreeing with that? Why are you going with the one that has the greater odds?
Yeah. Or if it were true, if what the experts say were true, would you feel differently? I think you'd probably say, no, I don't trust them.
Yeah. And then it goes to a discussion about, well, what's your reason for not discussing, not trusting the supermajority of specialist experts going to the Society of Virologists or Epidemiologists and looking at the statements that they have on their websites? What's your reason? Do you understand the scientific method? Why is the scientific method a reliable process to place trust in? And that unread library effect, going into the details, what is your understanding of the scientific method, and exposing that they really have no idea about what the scientific method is and what all this is.
Yeah, I had a similar point in just a few seconds coming up. I thought a good question would be, well, what percentage of unvaccinated people would you expect to see in hospitals versus vaccinated if the vaccine weren't effective, right? Which is his claim. Like he should have some expectation about that, I would think, right?
Well, you can't trust those statistics. The inventor of the NRMA,
but you don't have to trust any statistics, right? Just what would you expect to see, right?
Yeah.
If you personally investigated yourself, went to a hospital, and just started doing the research yourself, asking whoever's in a hospital bed, did you come in and, are you in, what would it take to be more confident about whatever claim?
His overconfidence in his ability to understand this is stunning. There seems to be very little humility in his abilities to be mistaken. Have you ever been mistaken? How would you react if an expert happened to be walking by and they showed us their credentials? Would you blow them off? Would you listen to them? Would you think at the end of that conversation that you were still correct, even though they've studied this? How does one develop a degree of confidence to this level? I think I know the answer to it is because we value it. Our society tends to value and raise those people up.
But it must be exhausting to have that much confidence about things, because
maybe it's really easy.
I think,
around the world, people are probably constantly saying, no, you're wrong.
I think a lot of people are taught that belief without evidence is virtuous. And I think that's where this leads.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Yeah. The cat gets let out of the bag here soon.
One thing this reminds me of is from that book, Scout Mindset. I don't know if you read it, but in the book,
it's a good book.
Gallup talks about the difference between epistemic certainty versus communication certainty, right? Coming across. Yeah, exactly. Right. So he's stating these claims in a very confident way. right? He exudes confidence. If someone didn't know anything and they were listening to him, they go, oh, he's pretty confident about what he's saying. Maybe that, some people might equate that with like, that means what he's saying is true, right? But like, it's not the same thing as epistemic certainty, right? Like actually, knowing whether something is true or not.
Yes. Yeah. Confidence. We're not talking about how what's the word? You're strolling into a bar and you're swaggering. We're not talking about swagger. We're not talking about bravado.
Right.
We're talking about your certainty, your assuredness that what you think is true is true.
Mm-hmm.
No,
some people confuse confidence with that.
Nobody knows confidence without evidence like me. I've been told I'm the best in terms of confidence without, my Donald Trump interpretation.
I think I'd try more testing questions here.
Oh,
yeah. I wonder if this claim is testable, that you yourself are virtually protected because of your own health and immune system.
Well, I didn't say I was virtually. I mean, I could get COVID. I just won't be like it won't kill me or anything.
There wouldn't be severe consequences.
Yeah, I'd be a little sick.
A little sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that claim testable?
Sure.
Yeah. Say hypothetically, what would be a good way to test that claim that you and people similar to yourself in terms of physicality and
well,
health?
I mean, I guess I could just straight up expose myself to COVID. I mean,
yeah. Say we instead of you doing it, we'd like get a population of 1,000 people that are like similar to you in terms of health and
sure. Yeah, I think that's honestly a good idea. They should be doing stuff like that. Honestly, as far as like, willing participants.
I would usually ask for the person to create the experiment themselves, the way of testing, but I'm just trying to get something going.
You know what I mean? Obviously, I mean, I wouldn't want to it's a hypothetical. I don't really want to be like a government lab rat or anything, honestly. But like, if it like, sure, whatever. Like, but
I wanted to say something. I thought this was important. I thought, like, when I heard him say that, I thought this was a clue that this is something close to his identity. Right.
The government lab rat thing?
Yeah. Like, I don't want to be part of something. Like, this is like not part of the character that I have, right? Like, I don't, this is like an identity claim, right? I don't want to be a government lab rat. I don't want to be experimented on, right? I want to have autonomy. Right?
Immediately after proclaiming that it would be a good idea to expose 1,000 of his peers to COVID.
Did he claim that?
It's completely backwards.
Well, I think that was
he just said, yeah, we should. Yeah, he said, yeah, I think we should do that, but I don't want to be a lab rat. Okay.
I'd have to wonder if we have the data on the study that you're actually proposing. We have those people. We have those results.
Yeah,
we know the BMI of the patients and the age ranges of them.
Right. I know that's the irony. It's like, do you suppose, like,
we have a huge natural
experiment. What if they had done these experiments, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or anything, honestly, but like, if it, like, sure, whatever, like, but if the more, like, I think reasonable situation is like, oh, I get exposed to COVID, you know what I mean? That's how we can test it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, say hypothetically tomorrow, in some way, there's like 1,000 people similar to you were now being tracked over the next year, 5 years or so, and we track them, and next year we discover some of them got COVID. If they all were fine, they just got a little sniffles. That would be a good reason to stay at your same level of confidence.
Sure. Yeah, sure. I guess. Yeah. If there's some type of study going on like that, sure. Yeah. I mean,
what would need to be the result of that test? How would they need to perform in terms of getting COVID in order for you to shift your confidence about it?
Now, I will say this. Yeah. Now, COVID itself, I don't think is like a virus. Like, in the beginning of the virus.
Nope. Bing, bounced off.
I'm taking a 0 on that question.
One of the comments I just noticed was someone's just asked, I'm wondering if you've had any COVID vaccine hesitant person doing a with more knowledge and more critical thinking skills. And they followed up with the idea that They've heard virologists and doctors who were having some skepticism about this. Well, I've had a few conversations with people that are very intelligent people, and they've raised this idea. They say that there are doctors and experts who are skeptical. They raise this. And so the natural pathway for the conversation to flow is, well, let's put this on a set of scales. You have the supermajority, the thousands of specialists out there with publications on the society websites who say this is the case and these are the odds. And then you have a handful who might be skeptical. And then what are some of the criteria that might lower our weight in relation to that? Are we competent enough to be able to interpret what they're saying accurately? Are they disgruntled? Do they have conflict of interest themselves? Are they running their own YouTube channels to spread disinformation? I mean, how are we comparing the weight? Why do we put so much weight in a small handful of people who may be disgruntled, who may have bias, conflict of interest, for whom we don't have the competence to be able to understand and interpret what they're saying anyway, to give it any weight? Why are we giving that equal weight with the supermajority, the thousands of specialists who are competing against each other to prove this thing wrong and not being able to prove it wrong, who actually value truth? What's the main reason for giving weight to that small group over the thousands here? So that's where
it wouldn't be just because they
me.
agree with you. Yeah.
That likely
Confirmation.
Is the reason. That likely is the reason why they're attracted to it, because they're giving the answer that I want to hear, and it confirms what I've already thought.
Confirmation bias.
Exactly.
Yeah. Motivated reasoning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, COVID itself, I don't think is like a virus. Like in the beginning of the virus and the pandemic, I think everybody was, a little scared. I was, using hand sanitizer. And it was before they were telling people to mask up and stuff. Like after like the first month, I was like, oh, this is bogus, But like the first month of the pandemic, I remember like March or something like that, I think it was, of 2020. Yeah. Like, sure, I think everybody was like a little concerned. Like I remember at work, I didn't want to touch the money and stuff like that. Like I think everybody was like, because it was like, oh, they're like, remember what they were doing? The propaganda they had people in China like dropping dead in the street saying it was from coronavirus and stuff. You know what I mean? It was insane. So like definitely, and I was a little concerned at first. And I will give you that, it is possible that one day there could be like another plague. You know what I mean? I don't think it's going to be coronavirus, but there could be like a super virus that actually kills a lot of people. And that's not a impossibility. I'm not saying.
How would it look any different than the current situation? How would a future virus that you would be concerned about look any different? What would need to happen to get from where we are with this thing to the situation that you would take more seriously?
Right. How much worse would it have to be specifically? Right.
What's your criteria? Because in 6 months we may be meeting his criteria with a variant or this variant.
I think that's an impossibility. I'm just saying coronavirus isn't it.
Yeah, so for this test of 1,000 people over a year, let's say half of them got COVID, and of the people who got COVID, half of them died. Would that be a reason? I'm not saying that will happen, or is that even close to realistic? If hypothetically that happened, would that change your confidence about getting?
I would be very.
I don't know if I should have given that specific example. I just wanted to see if anything potentially at all possible could happen.
And now he's looking for ways. He's looking for ways to dismiss your hypothetical rather than entertaining it.
Right.
You want to address it.
Yeah, which is and so like one way I could have gone on this, like if he's going to reject the hypothetical, would be to say, well, so we talked about doing a test, right? And it sounds like you're pretty clear about what would be a positive result, that the vaccine's not effective, but I'm not sure I understand what would be like a negative result. And what do you think about having a test where you can't prove anything wrong, right?
Here's a good example of where there's another comment there. We should know exactly the effects of masks, exactly the effects of vaccines. We should know exactly. And if we don't know exactly, we should not get the vaccine. And I think this is a really good example of, well, do you know exactly the effects of everyone getting COVID and letting it run? Do you know exactly the effects of what the world would look like in 3 years' time? Do you know exactly the effects of long-term problems associated with COVID? So no matter which side of the coin you fall, you have to make a decision, and that choice will have consequences on either side. So where is your standard for measuring to what degree of exactedness are you going to be acceptable for determining which side of the coin you're going to make your decision to fall on?
Yeah, there are no solutions. There are only trade-offs. What is on balance the best choice?
I've often wondered to myself. Oh, go ahead.
I should say, I wonder with a person like this, where you can't, it's very difficult to even give them a thought experiment, is kind of use a broken record technique where he doesn't answer it, but then you ask the same question, maybe sound a little different, but it's the same question. And then he asks a little, he doesn't quite get on, and then you ask it again nicely. And I would imagine at some point he would have to address it, maybe.
I've noticed I found myself saying, okay, let me try this a different way. And I don't know if that's really what you should do, because you're calling attention that they didn't get it the first time around, but that's kind of what I want to convey. So I don't know if there's a softer way of calling attention to the idea that they didn't pick up on the question that you were hoping to have them answer.
Yeah. And how are they determining the data for both sides of the coin right now? What's the criteria for accepting what data that they're seeing out there? You've got the data that shows the impact of actually getting COVID right now. And then you've got the data with the nearly 1 billion people that have had the vaccine across the world. And what's the percentage of those people for which there are side effects? And, with the data that's coming out, why are you preferring one over the other with your choice not to get vaccinated? That's an interesting pathway to go down.
I often wonder about the action-inaction dichotomy, right? So this vaccine's a situation where you have to take an action, right? And so I think people naturally have a bias to not do an action unless they really have to, right? And I just am curious, like, if that situation were reversed, right? If you had to do something, right? And or if it were reversed, right? If like taking an action actually was risky, right? Like maybe you could take an action and you would no longer be vaccinated, right?
If the vaccination was in the water supply, you had to actively not drink the water to get the vaccine.
Yes. You stop drinking the water and you're
not to not get the vaccine. Like fluoride.
I think with this, in this particular conversation, that question wouldn't go very far, but I've wondered that in some of these discussions.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, good stuff. Listen, if hypothetically that happened, would that change your confidence about getting the vaccine?
I would be very skeptical of that study, honestly, but I would look into it. I wouldn't say it would change my mind, but I would definitely look into it and be very skeptical.
Yeah. What result of that test?
And that right there, right, is like, to me, that was clear evidence of motivated reasoning, right? If it comes out in my favor, fine. If it doesn't, I'm skeptical, right? That's basically what
he's always right. Well, from a person who thinks they're always right, that sounds logical.
Yeah.
If this disagrees with what I think is true, I'm going to be skeptical about it. And
the truth is, probably like all of us do that, right? We just don't recognize where we're doing it. But I think that's a natural thing.
To reasonably revise your confidence.
I don't think anything, because coronavirus itself is just not a threat, in my opinion. So if there was some like crazy new, like something like that was like some crazy.
We're trying to diagnose the threat with a test, and what result of a test could make you think it is a threat?
What would be a crazy threat for you?
Yeah, actually, I thought the same thing. I thought it might be interesting to ask him what he considers a threat to be, right?
Yeah. Bubonic plague.
Mutated version of like some, cousin of coronavirus, like, you know what I mean? Like something that was actually a threat. You know what I mean? There's my answer. Okay. A virus that, if it was actually a threat. There you
say
go.
a new variant of this virus.
Yeah,
became
like if there was possibly or something, you know what I mean? Hypothetically, I don't think that's going to happen, just because the way that coronaviruses have been in the past. I don't think it would ever get to like some like, you know, plague level type of severity. But say they create some crazy fucking, you know, virus in a lab or some shit like that, you know what I mean, or create, you know what I mean, they could do it, you know what I mean. I'm not saying that's an impossibility. That is definitely, you know, I mean, that's definitely been like, you know, out there in the, you know, internet and like conspiracy theories for a long time, you know what I mean.
There is, so what I'm hearing you say, there is a possible world in the future potentially where there could exist a virus and there could exist a vaccine for that virus that you would be more willing to take the vaccine.
I'll say yeah, because if it was like some like the Black Plague or something, man, like yeah, I think sure, like
some type of virus that kills you within a week.
Yeah, sure, definitely.
Like a highly rigorous, super good tested vaccine.
Yes, I think I think I am anti-vax in a lot of the vaccines we have. I think there were good vaccines in the past. Like there were. I'm not 100%. Got it all in my head right now, but a lot of it changed when the vaccines were being made for profit and stuff like that, and companies were making them instead.
Yeah.
A lot of it changed when the internet started. That's when a lot of it changed.
Yeah.
For other reasons.
One question I recall we talked about was how does profit relate to effectiveness, right? Or how does the fact that the company made it relate to the effectiveness, or how could we test the effectiveness, right?
Somebody suggested it was either Mark or Reed saying, like, if there wasn't a profit motive for the companies, would you be more likely to take them if we took the profit part of it out of it?
I assume you want the physician who treats you if you have a really bad illness to probably make a good wage doing that.
Yeah.
That are like the universities and stuff like that, and you know, some universities are still making vaccines, but they're, you know, funded by, you know, dubious funders. So there are some vaccines in the past that were good. Like I think the polio vaccine did save a lot of people, I'm pretty sure. But also like the MMR vaccine, you know, that shit's, I took it, and I was fine from it, obviously. But there's kids that literally like get autism from it, get like, you know, crazy.
I was fine from it, obviously. I'm impervious to being injured. Is this what he's saying? If he's impervious to being injured, wouldn't he be fine taking a vaccine?
Yeah.
I thought he said that he didn't take the vaccine. I must have misunderstood that.
No, he didn't.
He said he got the MMR vaccine, but he didn't have any negative side effects. That's what he's saying, right?
Didn't he say at the beginning when Reed asked him, "Have you been vaccinated?" Hell no.
No, not.
Well,
no,
I think he meant the COVID vaccine, right?
Oh, I see.
I just want to go on the record as saying the autism link is bullshit. Okay, just it really is. I want to say that so clearly. Oh man, I was listening to this live in Reed's air-conditioned car during the event, and I didn't have to keep my thick skin on. I didn't have to be kind, and I was railing and yelling and poking, and Kimberly was watching.
While you're supposed to be relaxed, getting your IV, and
yes.
Yeah. I mean, it was all fine. It was fine.
Would you have been incapable? Do you think you would have been incapable of conducting this interview with this person?
I think I could have done it. I've dealt with things that have infuriated me far more, and it's possible I might have aborted at some point, but hopefully not at a loss of rapport. More like I have the excuse of, well, you know, this is going out on YouTube, and you've probably gotten us like smacked down hard already, and if we can't get away from the conspiracy stuff, I'm just gonna cut it. I might have.
That's a good question, Anthony, because I'm seeing this sort of topic is requiring a lot of skill to be able to SE someone on this, because we all have some stake in it, and so it requires a lot of self-control. And I'm seeing good self-control.
I imagine we've all had people who this is affected
Excellent
personally.
self-control.
You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's when it's going to become more difficult, when your loved one succumbs to well, hopefully it doesn't get that bad, but when we start losing, well, people are losing loved ones. But yeah, I think it could help your own ability to do this if it hits too close to home.
They've got a lot of younger people now going into hospital in Australia with the new strain of COVID. And can you imagine if that was, your child that's in ICU and you're having a conversation with a guy like this? How difficult would that be?
It's almost I don't want to say impossible, but you'd have to really be stoic and try to just stick to the principles of SE and take yourself out of it as much as you can. But it would be really hard.
But treating physicians and nurses are having conversations with their patients who believe.
Yeah, they're literally in the hospital bed.
Yeah, that was
dying,
in that podcast, right?
And they won't. Yeah, they don't accept that they're dying of this virus. There must be something else.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't show you how strong beliefs are, nothing will. I mean, they just can be so overpowering.
Well, that one guest on McGraney's podcast was talking about this idea of tribal death and
social. Right, that's worse.
Social
death.
Social death as opposed to a real physical death. But it seemed like it was kind of mixed because she was suggesting that people could still like go out on the sly and get their shot. You don't really notice. Nobody's going to notice that you got your shot unless you go to a store in a small town, maybe. But you could still drive 50 miles out of town and go to another. You could still obscure the fact that you got the vaccine.
I didn't
stay in your tribe.
There's a girl from Czechoslovakia in the class that I'm teaching, and she's against the vaccine. And she said to me, "Oh, I can go back to Czechoslovakia, and we can just get the doctor to sign off on us that we've been vaccinated."
Great.
Oh my God.
So you're encouraging us, like distorting the records that we use to decide if this is working or not.
Yeah. Which goes to my thought about why would you place all your trust just in your local GP? I mean, what sort of history and background does that person have? And why would you prefer the judgment of one person over the supermajority of experts? Where's the reasoning in that?
Yeah. And if you're of the mindset that all I need to do is just ask somebody to kind of finagle things and we're cool, if you think that that's relatively easy to do, no wonder you don't trust statistics and data.
Yeah,
because you're coming from the mindset of, I could just change this stuff. So then you think that everyone's
Well, Czechoslovakia used to be communist under the Soviet Union, right? So they probably had some of that. Remember that example he gave in the podcast where, if I might not trust statistics that were coming out of the Soviet Union. Because, right.
I thought that was a good point. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, finish this off. Here we go.
Other debilitating problems from it, you know what I mean?
We have better and worse vaccines.
There's better and worse vaccines, I think, for sure. Personally, I think
this current vaccine is not as good as you would like it to be.
This is the worst. This is the worst. This is absolutely the worst.
The worst kind of vaccine?
Because it's the new mRNA gene therapy technology that we have no long-term studies on, and we don't know what the hell is going to happen in the next 5 years. You know what I mean? Half of the people that took the vaccine could end up infertile for God knows,
Yeah, say 5 years from now, what would need to be true in that world to think, us back in 5 years ago, we shouldn't have been so much worried about it. We should have thought it was.
Well, definitely that would be if like half of the people that got the vaccine are infertile or something like that. You know what I mean? That would be a cause for concern.
That would be a cause for concern. What would be a cause for not concern?
Yeah, I will say, if there is, if in 5 years, maybe it's harder to tell exactly, what the side effects were, and it's a little bit, harder to exactly pinpoint. But I do think that regardless, putting that foreign, substance in your body is not good. Like, honestly, personally, for me, I don't even really believe in like injections. You know what I mean? Like, the idea of like injecting something into your bloodstream is a very new idea, really. That's like only been around for like 200 years or something like that. God made us with ways to like absorb stuff, like we have our nostrils, we have our mouth.
Now we're going somewhere.
Too much.
Yeah, this was interesting to me because like I wondered to myself, you could tell he really struggled with the counterfactual. Like, what would have to be true for
He's
the
not
virus,
used to
the
hearing
vaccine to not.
counterfactuals.
Yeah, and he really couldn't come up with an answer, and he kind of said something, and then he's like, "But let me tell you about putting foreign stuff in your body," right? Like, again, I get the impression he's using like these claims as, you know, reasons, right? But I wonder if like one strategy couldn't be like, for each claim he surfaces, if you say, well, suppose we show it is okay, or suppose they had a version you could just take a tablet, right? Would that change your mind? And he'd probably say, no, there's a million other reasons, right? But like,
yeah, you're still putting it in your body.
Yeah.
But he's against masks, so you're not putting masks in your body, but he's still even against the mask.
Yeah, I put foreign substances in my body every day. I mean, my favorite foreign substance is like cheesecake. So, what's the deal with foreign substances?
Read the ingredients.
Is that imported cheesecake?
And if you watch our Sunday poker games, you'll notice that Reed does indeed eat cheesecake from. Yeah,
I do.
So are we just looking at a case of like straight up tribalism, where it's just, this is my group, this is what I adhere to, and this is what I believe, and this is my silo?
I think he just said it. I think needles, naturalism fallacy, God will protect. That's my intuition of his actual reasons, and everything else is confirmation bias to help buy himself out of having to deal with that needle.
That's a good insight. Yeah. It's hard.
And that's just my intuition. I could so be wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of that going on for sure. All right, we'll finish this off.
You know, our ears, even our eyes, you know what I mean? Our skin, even, you know, we have ways to absorb stuff. So I personally even think that like injection in itself, injecting something straight into your bloodstream, I don't think we were meant to do that as humans, personally.
Injections is a type of man-made technology.
Yeah, like obviously some have worked, you know, and some have worked, but I don't, like in the grand scheme of things, I don't think we were meant to be doing that, personally.
We weren't meant to be intervening in our health in that way.
Yeah, like, well, like, just like the injecting stuff straight into your bloodstream. Like, I don't know, like, how do we know that our bodies were made to do that? You know what I mean? We know that our bodies were made to absorb stuff through the mouth, absorb stuff through the nose, absorb stuff through the eyes, absorb stuff through the skin, but poking a needle into your vein, like, how do we know that we were meant to absorb stuff through that way? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's a very, you know, philosophical idea too, to a way to think about it as well. You know what I mean?
Should we?
Wasn't he just
only do what?
Wasn't he just a few minutes ago saying how in the past some vaccines were really good, and now he's saying we shouldn't have any sort of needles put in us?
Yeah, he also talked about how he was taking supplements to boost his immunity, right? And I know those weren't needles; those were like, you know, eaten or whatever.
If you consume something, you eat it, it's still going to go in your, it still goes in your bloodstream.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Not necessarily.
No,
not in
I don't know
that
if we're
way.
meant to take pure turmeric.
Not specific. Yeah, not precisely. Yeah.
A way to think about it as well. You know what I mean?
Should humanity, only do what was meant for us by God's creation? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Ideally. I mean, I'm a Christian, so ideally. You know, obviously we live in a fallen world, so you know,
obviously
Satan is
Lucas has a good comment on it. Says that it sounds like that he shouldn't be wearing his sunglasses right now.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Intervening with the light.
Yeah, God didn't create us with sunglasses.
Yeah,
pit fiber sunglasses.
Ruler of this world, so evil will preside and win most of the time. But I would love for us to, you know, live in a godly Christian society, you know, instead of this like hell world we live in. But man, I actually gotta go. Honestly, I've been talking for a while, and my mom's waiting for me. I think we had a good conversation.
Yeah,
though.
I love the chat. I try to be here Sundays from 12 to 4. Do you come to the park often?
No. I
you're about to leave, right?
But I'm gonna take one of these cards.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I live stream as well.
Yeah, I'd love to continue the chat at some point.
Yeah, I live stream as well. I mean, little bit different content, but you know, I'll show my channel this.
Cool.
I'll show him.
And what was your name? Sorry.
My name's Nate.
Nate. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Can you write down your email?
Yeah.
So yeah, I got his email.
Oh, we gotta find out. It's live stream.
Yeah.
35 claims, by the way.
35.
Wow.
Yeah.
35 claims.
Amazing.
See how hard it is to get to the root of it. Like, what's the underpinning moral intuition, belief and all these other things that is on the surface.
But
That's
is
the
there
challenge.
one? I mean, yeah.
It seemed like it could have been intervention. Like there's a natural order to things and we kind of just have to let things go, and we shouldn't do man-made stuff because there's something inherently wrong about man-made stuff. And vaccines are man-made stuff. I think that's kind of it. Like I would want to tease that out further. Would you view vaccines differently if you didn't have a religious outlook on life?
Yeah, question for Mark. Is it possible, Mark, that there's a whole subset of beliefs here, egoic beliefs, tribalist beliefs, that it might be impossible. It might take like a year of having conversations with someone to unravel all of these, psychosocial motivations that are in the way.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I think, I've never talked to this guy personally, but there are definitely subsets of people who have personality disorder issues, not saying he does, but that where it's really hard to take a perspective of another person. And my perspective is the only perspective. And if someone else has a different perspective, then doesn't even not only does that not make sense, they cannot make sense of that, of someone else having a different perspective. The brain just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Being able to take a perspective of another human being. And so, and I think sometimes when I hear really strong beliefs like that, I think about those kind of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gina has a good comment in the chat. It sounds like what Haidt was saying about how people rationalize their own decisions or their own intuitions after the fact. Yeah.
I don't think I
something to
produced
that.
aiming at all system 2 slowing down type of thinking in this. It was just all fast.
Maybe the only part was where he struggled to answer what would have to happen to the test for you to believe that the vaccine was effective. And that was maybe the only part.
That's where he slowed down the most.
Yeah. And I've noticed I tried to match his speed. I probably should have tried to slow down myself. But there's a lot of gish galloping.
Yeah, I mean, Reed, I think he did a really good job considering
Great self-control.
He was difficult. Yeah, it's a difficult conversation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you had good rapport. Like you were conducted yourself really well. You were adhering to the method. Like you were trying to identify a claim and you're repeating back, and you got to testing. So according to our definition of what is SE, I think you are like our working new definition of SE for people watching this, because we're having these side conversations about the course. I think this qualified as SE, even though it may have seemed like it was fruitless with them because they kept throwing claim after claim after claim at you.
There wasn't much reflection going on.
There wasn't much reflection. Yeah. We want to see like reflection, but a conversation, it seems, can still be SE if you don't have the reflection. Because you got to question, right? You got to the method, you had the rapport.
Yeah. And I have a question for Reed. Was there anything in that conversation that increased or decreased your confidence on the topic?
No.
Okay. So you cast your net out wider and you're still at the same point. Okay. Yeah.
There's a lot of, kernels of truth in some of what he's saying. I could steel man a lot of what he's saying. And
there are some kernels of truth, right?
No, long-term studies is a really good one. Like I was nodding my head on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Not so much on the demon stuff.
Yeah.
Right. I wonder, Reed, like, I don't know that this would have worked, but like, I wonder if you could have tried like asking him to ask you what you think would be a good test, or like what you would consider a good or a bad result for vaccine efficacy. And you just answer it like shortly and simply, right? And then you ask the question back to him, because I wasn't sure like he got the idea of what the conversation was supposed to be. He was kind of using it as a soapbox, right?
It could also be interesting to do what Nathan suggested at the last review, where you ask your conversation partner, what do you think people on the other side think about this? I think that was Nathan's. Maybe it was Mark's. I'm not sure. Kind of lose track of it. But I wonder if he can verbalize how other people who are taking the vaccine and are worried about the virus, I wonder if he had the capability of verbalizing their argument, their position,
right,
in a fair way. Like, oh, they're just these bunch of sheep who will follow anything. Like, I wonder if he would go that way, or could he put a really good neutral argument in their mouths? I wonder.
Yeah. And this is actually a good video, because I know he was all over the place with his claims, but I think when the regular person talks to a family member who might be glued to certain channels or certain forms of media, I think this may more closely resemble how conversations go, where it's so hard to have a real, honest conversation because maybe who you're talking to, the claims just keep on rotating. And so when they come up so fast, you really can't address anything. And I'm wondering if that's in real life, that's how these conversations tend to go.
I could see how this kind of conversation partner could really frustrate somebody who's inexperienced with SE, because it's not going the way that you would expect a conversation to go. Like, you're getting thrown for a loop because you're being jammed with too many claims at the start. Yeah.
And remember
chapter 7. I have to
seven.
address each claim, and it's impossible. So yeah.
What's in chapter 7?
Chapter 7 of Impossible Conversation reminds us that when we are dealing with somebody who's doxastically closed, we at least have the opportunity to learn their jargon and their arguments, which might prepare us for other conversations, even if we make no headway with them at all.
And I feel like we did that here today.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, I was just thinking the opposite, because they were just surface claims, and I'm thinking, like, I'm in the same position with Reed. My confidence wouldn't change either way from this, because I don't feel like I've learned anything from him. I haven't really understood his reasons behind those surface claims, because as soon as you get to it, he changes to another surface claim. So this video is a great educational tool for people interested in SE to watch, to see, okay, this is the sort of difficult conversations we can have, and this is like a really skillful demonstration of self-control and all those sort of things. But if I was Reed sitting there and I wasn't filming this, I pretty much feel like I'd wasted my time, because I haven't learned anything from him. It's just one claim after another. Or maybe if I didn't lose it, I might have practiced self-control. If I could have maintained the same self-control that Reed did, that would have been a benefit I could take away from it, maybe. But
but like Dali said, you could learn the moral intuitions that he has, or the moral language, right, that he uses.
Yeah.
So it sounds like he values freedom and autonomy, right, versus authority.
Yes, that would be a takeaway. Yeah.
I would imagine that this guy probably felt that he was really listened to too, and treated respectfully, and maybe willing to come back for the second talk the next time he finds himself in LA stranded because his flight was canceled or whatever that deal was.
I got his email. I may ask for him to
Wouldn't it be great?
schedule a Zoom meeting with me. If I do that, what should be my, I don't know, strategy, or what should be the game plan?
I would ask him to
one claim.
The game, it should
review.
be really
One claim.
really get him to focus on one claim. Right?
Focus
One
on the
claim.
thing. Yeah.
And really, like, what's the biggest reason, right? What's the most important reason to you? Even if you may not even know what it is, right? But
And that was a good point, Anthony, because sometimes the goals, like, we can have 3 goals out of SE, and one of my goals is to try and learn the arguments against what I believe, so that I can falsify what I believe. And I might not hit that with a discussion like this, but one of the goals is to, like, a community service where have people feel like they've been heard and connect, and and that would have been demonstrated here. So that goal would have been hit, where this guy would have felt like he was heard at least.
Also, think about how many times we do an interview or something, kind of like what I was talking about, and you regret it afterwards. Like, I could have done better. I should have said this. It's conceivable that he may also be thinking about how he could have performed better in that interview. And maybe he's actually thinking about some of the things that he said and maybe wished that he had phrased it differently. So I think all in all, it was good, even though there wasn't reflection or movement or a breakthrough of some sort. Like there's still value in that exchange.
Yeah. Yeah. And often we don't know if the reflection's happening 4 hours later or a day later. You can't tell.
And there were some areas where you could have maybe pushed and there was maybe like an opening. Like he said, well, I don't think the polio vaccine was bad. Oh, okay. Or I might take a vaccine if it were like the Black Death or the plague, right? And so that's interesting, right? So he's not like completely closed to the idea, right? So then like it's interesting I don't think he seriously considered like what would have to be different, like on the scale from the Black Death to no one dying from anything, like how bad would it have to be, but I felt like there were like he said, yeah, there's better and worse vaccines. Well, like maybe the unread library effect. Well, what makes a vaccine better or worse, and how do you know which ones are good and which ones aren't? I mean, he had claims ready for those, but at least there was like a little bit of movement possible, I think.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be going out, try to be Sundays, and then I'm going to be going on a road trip starting mid-September all the way to mid-November. I think this is a very, common topic I will try to get. And
you're doing an SE road trip?
Yeah, an SE road trip, basically.
Cool.
And I'll be getting a lot more of these convos. I'll be uploading them to my new clips channel, just the raw convos, and if it's something really good, I'll put it on the main channel. So look out for that. And in the meantime, check out all these guys' channels. They're really great. Matt, are you planning to do a channel at some point?
Maybe at some point in the future. Yeah.
Nice. So cool. Yeah. Appreciate everyone for coming. Any last words?
Yes, I want to invite people. A lot of the people in the comments were talking about speaking to somebody about their vaccine hesitancy or medical hesitancy. I'm doing a series of those kinds of interviews, so hit me up at JugglingLessons@gmail.com. I would love to talk to you about that if you're interested and willing. And I'm talking to people from all spectrums in medical hesitancy. I'm not trying to select for that. I'm only selecting for, are you willing to be open and transparent about it, and talk to me about your feelings on it.
Have you guys thought about going to a school board or something? It seems like that's where there's a lot of activity. These conversations are happening. No?
Interesting.
That's
I haven't
a
thought
good
of that.
idea.
I know Mark went to a freaking protest.
I'm allergic to violence.
Yeah, they're pretty stressful when I watch the videos.
Yep. All right, cool. Another great show. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.